Alright, so today we're going to be installing a Cabrack on a T3 Tacoma. Fits T2, T3, second gen, third generation Tacomas. Let's go ahead and get started. So first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to remove this little trim piece. These come out pretty easily. You can just kind of grab them. They're just kind of a pressed fit inside of here. There is going to be some double-sided sticky tape on one of them, and then there's a small clip on the front that goes there, and you can see the double-sided sticky tape. We're gonna put these out of the way for now, and we'll get to those when we get the rack installed. So once you get those off, there are some little covers, some little kind of double-sided sticky tape that covers our holes here. So you can either remove it or you can kind of feel where they are. Ours are already poked out right here. So there's going to be 5 of them, 2 in the front, 1 in the middle, and then 2 more in the rear. Get those kind of uncovered, good enough to basically we're going to be threading a bolt through, and then we'll go from there. So we're going to start assembling our rack now. A couple things you're going to see is that you're going to have a single silver crossbar, and then we're going to have black ones with slots in it. Black ones are going to be for the rack. The silver one is what's going to attach our wind deflector to it. So we leave that one silver because there's no need for it to be black. It's completely covered up. And the black ones, we're going to assemble those into the side rails once we're done. And let's go ahead and put the wind deflector together. You're going to have wind deflector hardware, and these are pretty simple to put together. Our small little pieces, they're just going to slide right in here, and that's what's going to screw into, and we'll start putting that together. The screws, they're just going to be a Phillips. We're going to put a lock washer on, and then our regular washer on. That's all it's going to take. We're going to put all those together, and then we'll set our wind deflector on. We'll start screwing everything together. Once we got all of our little things in there to screw down into, all the screws are ready with the lock washers and washers. We can go ahead and set our wind deflector on here. Go ahead and just start putting them in hand tight. You don't want to get any of them tight down right away, so you get all of them, and you can kind of get the wind deflector centered on everything. And then once you do have all of them together, then we can go ahead and tighten everything down. So once you got your wind deflector put together, if you are doing wind noise trim, we're going to go ahead and put that on now. Just start at one end, just slide it on evenly, then you're just going to work your way across and cut it off at the other end. Alright, now that the wind deflector is all done and ready, we can kind of set that to the side, and we're going to start assembling the rack, starting off with our hardware. These are going to be M6 with a T30 Torx bit head, and they're going to be the same thing, lock washer with the washer going on, and we can go ahead and put these together, and then we can start putting bars onto the side rails. So, got all of our hardware ready, so we can go ahead and start putting the rack together. We don't want to put all the bars in place because some of them are going to cover some of our points where we're going to be bolting the rack down. And so we're just going to put some of the bars in. Also makes it easier to set the rack onto the vehicle. Not as heavy, things like that. So let's go ahead and start putting some of these together. Alright, so now that we got our rack partially assembled, we're going to get the hardware ready for bolting the rack together. We have our 1-inch spacers, and then we have our bolts here. Again, same thing, it's gonna have a lock washer and then a little bit larger washer. We're gonna go ahead and put those together, and then we'll go ahead and start installing the spacers first. One of the things we're gonna wanna do is, obviously our trim pieces aren't gonna fit in here with our spacers and everything there. So one of the things we can do is we're gonna trim this up. There's one of two ways that we typically do this. One is you can actually just section these out, just cut a nice little section out and you know, set them back in. The other way is you can actually line these up and mark them, and you can actually use a drill and drill the holes through these, and then you have just a small hole there. The hole's a little bit more time consuming than just marking and cutting the sections out. I'll show you how we do just cutting the sections first. So on this one, go ahead and clip the front in, and then you can kind of pull it back just a little bit, and you can kind of just see your holes down in there. Lift it up, do whatever you need to really just get the spot. And I just take a just regular pencil, you can use a Sharpie, whatever you need, and I just mark it where I think that section is going to be. And I always mark them a little bit narrow because I can always take more off, but I can never add more back to the trim. In order to drill these, like I said, it's a little bit harder to get spot on. So kind of doing the same thing. I just have a small pick here that I'm just basically going to poke a small hole where I know where it's going to be going in first, and where I can kind of line it up by holding this up just a little bit, looking down in there and seeing that I have this first hole. And you're going to want to mark them just directly in the middle. We'll just keep going down from there. If I was going to want to section these, I just use a knife of some sort, and then you're gonna need a pair of dikes. And wherever you marked your section, I would just go ahead and cut through it on both sides pretty well, and then you can take the dikes, and there's a little metal spine in there, and you can just snip that spine, clean it up from there however you need, and that'd be the easiest way to section it. But today we're gonna drill ours. So I'm just using a 3/4 inch drill bit, and I've already marked my small holes here. So we're just gonna go ahead and drill this thing out, and then we'll section it from there. Once that's drilled, we can go onto the back side and kind of just cut these open like that, and then we'll take and we'll cut this out and drill the second hole real quick. That comes out, and then this is where the little metal spine is. We're just going to get underneath it. That's out, and now we can finish just using our dikes to basically follow, or our cutter. We can basically just follow this hole that we've made, and just clean that right out. So once we got our trim pieces cut, we can go ahead and use our silicone. We're going to put silicone just right at the hole. Then we're going to set the washer or the spacer right over the top of it. So we're going to put this in here, and it's just going to kind of help keep any water or anything from getting in. Go ahead and do that to all of those. Then we're going to set our trim in place. Kind of lay it down. Now we can go through, put all of our spacers in. All right, once you got your rack up there and in place, we can go ahead and start putting our hardware in all the holes and start getting this thing bolted down. Once we got our rack installed, if you do have a newer TRD Pro with the factory Toyota snorkel on it, our wind deflect or our side rails are kind of cut out for this specifically, so you do need to make sure if you are ordering a rack from us with the factory snorkel, you do need to make sure you get the correct rack. And then we have this slot right here, so where we're going to bolt our original factory manufacturer hardware in there. It's just going to go right back together. All right, so once you got your rack on there, if you got your TRD Pro, you got a snorkel and you got that attached. Once everything's ready, we left this loose so that we can kind of square this up where we want it. But once you got it centered and how you want it, we can go ahead and tighten down these bolts. All right, so now that everything is tightened down for the rack, once we're done with that, we can go ahead and put the rest of our crossbars in, and we'll be finished up. So that takes care of our cab rack install on T3 Tacoma with the TRD Pro factory snorkel. Standard cab rack without the snorkel install is pretty much the same aside from the small slot. But again, there is a difference between the TRD Pro with the snorkel and the TRD Pro without. So make sure when we're ordering them online, we make sure we get the right one. Other than that, that takes care of it. Thanks.